I'm writing a shonen manga called Maidral, so obviously I spend a lot of time reading other manga of many different genres. But I'm sort of a slow reader and have to be incredibly passionate about something to retain much knowledge about it. So an evil question popped into my mind. How many manga could you read in one day? And maybe more importantly, would any of it even stick with me? I find it hard to remember specific details about even some of my favorite series. Well, not you. I remember every perfect panel of yours. So let's read through a couple new series, plus this is the perfect opportunity to finally start reading you. So we have Kaiju No. 8, Fairy Tail 100-Year Quest, Soul Rescue, The Ancient Magus Bride, Jack Flash, Witch's Printing Office, DanDaDan, Super Women in Love, and Apple Black. Clearly, not all these books are created equally for this challenge. Some are completely new to me, some will have familiarity with the general world, and one of them is literally a sequel to a franchise I've covered over and over again on this channel. I am going to time how long it takes me to read each volume at my regular speed, and explain to you what happened. Some time has passed since reading and writing, so there's a good chance I just miss a lot of information and totally forget names. Okay, so a lot of time has passed. At the end, I'll give my quick opinions on each series, as well as how well I think I retain the information. If you like these videos, then please subscribe, as it is one of the only few things that can keep a small YouTuber sane after all these years. Let's begin! Fairy Tail 100-Year Quest. Number of volumes read, 3. Total time, 2 hours and 40 minutes. After seeing glimpses of Alakutashia in the final arc of Fairy Tail, we're now picking up an old story beat from just before Tenro Island. The 100-Year Quest that nearly killed Guildarts is still available all these years later. The initial chapters sort of feel like back to basics. The main crew of Natsu, Lucy, Gray, Urza, and Wendy travel to a new continent named Gultina and meet the master of the oldest wizard guild. His name is Elef Saria, and he wants the dragon gods eliminated. Not necessarily killed, but taken out of commission somehow. Why? I honestly can't remember. I'm not sure a good reason was even given in the first couple volumes. The first dragon god, Mercphobia? He's like a mer person? Mercphobia? Like, what is he, scared of Deadpool or something? Mer is a water dragon who floods a neighboring city every night. But while that's happening, Jalal has a B plot. So what is the best character in the series doing without Urza or any of Crime Sorciere? He's looking for a woman. But not in that way. Jalal sprints across Fiore in record time to talk to every recognizable side character available to track her down. Silly boy doesn't remember that everything revolves around Fairy Tail, and she just joined. Ending his search where it should have began, Jalal gets blocked by... Loxus? Burn the place to the ground to protect Fairy Tail's image, Loxus. Inhale poison to protect everyone, Loxus. Drop your ego to let Natsu beat Master Hades, Loxus. This guy is gonna be the big macho man protector of a woman who is clearly evil. Apparently everyone besides Gajiel and Juvia trusts her. So I thought this would be an ongoing thing, like the B-plot would literally be Jalal slowly gathering evidence and convincing people, but instead she just reveals that she's evil immediately and one-shots them all. She one-shots Jalal, Loxus, Juvia, Mira, Freed, Romeo? Okay, well, that one kind of makes sense. Anyway, back to the main plot. The water dragon is actually a little sweetheart who loves his human girlfriend, neither of which I remember the names of, and had to look up afterwards for this script. So I'm what? 0 out of 5 for names? Well, I'm about to be 0 out of 8 because 3 new bad guys just show up. The first of which is the Blade Dragon Slayer. When she was introduced, I jokingly said, oh wow, is she gonna be a 4th generation Dragon Slayer? Because that's dumb. For non-Fairy Tail fans, here is the silly logic behind Dragon Slayers. First generation were raised and trained by dragons. Second generation essentially put a dangerous orb of dragon magic inside of their bodies, and the third generation did both. Kinda dumb, right? It's all the same kind of magic, just acquired slightly differently. But I was wrong! The Tartaros arc actually introduced 4th generation Slayers, who are like demon robots or something, I don't really remember. So plot twist, we now have 5th generation Slayers. Friendly reminder, they never once explained God Slayer magic. Are gods real? I don't know, we only ever saw the Celestial Spirit King, maybe he counts? So these 5th generation Slayers ate a bowl of dragon meat stew to get their powers that way, and every dragon they eat, they gain new powers. So already, the story has radically changed. We went from a back-to-basics adventure of slaying dragons, something a main dragon slayer has only ever done exactly one time, to a desperate struggle to defend the dragon gods from the hungry bad guys who are strong enough to get this video demonetized, while Jalal tries to stop a magic terrorist from killing everyone. Whoa! Soul Rescue. Number of volumes read 2, total time 2 hours and 17 minutes. Next up is Soul Rescue, a bit of a weird series. It's an action-adventure series like you'd find in a typical shonen, but was published in a shoujo magazine. Even the author notes how it doesn't feel shoujo at all. This series follows Renji, a bad boy angel who has pretty much never done anything bad. Because he's apparently just so terrible, God sends him to Earth to save 10,000 people in order to learn the value of life and his duty as an angel to protect it. He is babysat by Kaito, an elite angel who I could not figure out the gender of until a character literally had to say it out loud. Together, they travel across Earth, meeting beautiful women along the way who always need Renji's help, and the only way he can help them is by using a secret power God gifted him. When someone is dying, and Renji feels pain for them, he can kiss them to restore their life. This series starts off kinda rough, and brings you along for a roller coaster of confusion. It's honestly quite hard to keep up with this series, as it just gets hijacked towards the end. I'm going to be making a video fully diving into this series because it's quite interesting. So after doing some research on Soul Rescue, I saw the 22nd anniversary was coming up, and that's why that video is out before this one. Sorry, what was that? Why did this one take so much longer? Well, I have a lot of videos in production on all 3 channels, and this one sort of just fell on the back burner. Plus, waiting so long lets me see if I could actually remember anything. You know what? That's gonna be my reason. Let's go with that one. Soul Rescue can feel very disjointed. It flirts with a lot of interesting themes. Every couple chapters radically change the feel of the manga. After my first reading, it was hard to remember as much as my attention was grabbed by the one-shot hidden away at the end of Volume 2. If you want to hear more about this forgotten shonen and the secret story within it, check out my video on Soul Rescue after you finish this. Witch's Printing Office. Number of volumes read 1. Total time 1 hour, 21 minutes, and 5 seconds. Now let's take a small break from shonen. Witch's Printing Office is a fantasy slice-of-life comedy about the struggles to set up and manage a magic convention. In this world, sorcerers can create new spells and sell them to each other, but until someone comes up with a cell phone spell, the only way they can exchange this information is through setting up a booth at the yearly magic convention. Wizards come from all over the world to purchase scrolls containing spells that can help them in anything from adventuring, cooking, or bringing back the dead. Nope, those ones are against the rules. But because of how sought after these spells are, along with the fact all the good ones often sell out, it is a sweaty gamer stampede to bust into Artist Alley as fast as humanly possible to claim your spot. People in this universe go so hog wild for these spells, you'd think there's a spell that would make Maidral come out quicker. If you've been paying attention to the numbers so far, you might be wondering, how the hell did it take an hour and 21 minutes to read 1 volume of this manga? Well, for as cute as this book is, I found it incredibly tedious. I'm not sure if I was just getting burnt out at this point, but I felt like I was dragging myself through this book, and I just didn't have the heart to pick up another volume, so we're moving on. The Ancient Magus Bride, Jack Flash, and the Fairy Case Files. Number of volumes read 2, total time 1 hour and 50 minutes. Next up is a spin-off of a series I love, tackling a genre I love. We follow Jack and Larry, sort of siblings who are switched at birth. One is a fae raised in the human world, and the other was a human raised amongst the fae. Now adults, they open a private investigator business and work closely with an evil businessman to solve crimes. A dragon egg has been smuggled into the human world, and it seems like every human and fae alike are trying to get their hands on it. The evil businessman puts Jack on the case, and off we go. During her investigation, she gathers info from a centaur mailman and my favorite character, a dead actor named Roderick. And let's just pause and talk about the characters. I don't like any of them. Despite this incredible, if sometimes hard to read art, I do not care about any living character in this series. These first 2 volumes are so focused on the obviously evil businessman being obviously evil, while only giving us essentially 1 scene cameos from anyone interesting. However, I do think after a few volumes, a lot of my issues could be fixed. Early on, it feels like there's teases of interesting characters and lore of the Fae, but we're just too pressed for time to explore them yet. I see this similarly to what I call in shonen anime, goofy first episode-itis, where we are so forced to have a self-contained introduction in fear that the audience will just abandon us if we don't say out loud our every goal and challenge immediately. But unfortunately, we just don't seem to have that many chances for Jack to appeal to us because we are so focused on this boring plot that anyone could have seen coming. Towards the end of Volume 2, the egg hatches, and I could see this being a very literal new beginning for the manga, where narrative priorities are readjusted. Kaiju No. 8, number of volumes read 4, total time 2 hours and 32 minutes. Jumping back into shonen, we have the popular Kaiju No. 8. With the anime adaptation coming out in a few weeks, I'll be careful around spoilers and we'll just talk about the general plot and characters. We follow Kafka, a cleaner whose work involves disposing of kaiju corpses after attacks. Kafka failed at becoming a defense force fighter, but is determined to give it one last shot. He quickly becomes infected by a small kaiju that gives him the ability to transform into one of them, and now must hide his powers from the government while also working for them as a defense force agent. This series has a lot of likable characters and a pretty interesting world. Some kaiju are either powerful or intelligent enough to be given special numerical code names to identify them as larger threats. So once Kafka is caught using his powers, he lands himself in that club as Kaiju No. 8. The action in the series is very fun and the volumes fly by, but that does mean that each individual volume leaves you with the feeling that nothing really happened. The story takes a while to really get going, and with a high amount of full-page spreads or pages that only have a couple large panels, the books come off a bit light. I've also heard that the series starts to trend downward in later volumes, but out of the 4 I've read, they were a blast, and it was honestly pretty hard to stop at 4. We're definitely on an upswing, because next up is DanDaDan, number of volumes read 1, total time 54 minutes and 4 seconds. Another series due for an adaptation, DanDaDan is a mature-rated supernatural action comedy following Momo Ayase, the granddaughter of a spiritual medium who doesn't believe in aliens, and Ken Takakura, a shy kid who is obsessed with aliens but does not believe in spirits. After Momo scares some bullies off of Ken by merely sitting next to him for 5 seconds, Ken jumps at the chance to make his first friend. They get into an argument over the validity of believing in either aliens or spirits, and because the story needs to happen, they both immediately agree to venture into areas rumored to house both entities. Ken enters an abandoned tunnel where he meets a yokai called Turbo Granny. Unknowingly, he runs from her in an attempt to escape, but if she catches you, she steals your, banana. On the other side of town, Momo enters an abandoned school where some aliens abduct her for purposes involving their bananas. These stories converge to form our inciting incident where the now cursed Ken arrives as Turbo Granny to snack on the alien bananas. But the strange mind powers of the aliens awaken Momo's dormant psychic abilities, which now allow her to temporarily control the curse of Turbo Granny. Now these two unlikely friends need to join together to find a way to train Momo's powers enough to defeat Turbo Granny and save Ken, while they fight a few different monsters along the way. I remember only getting DanDaDan because of a buy however many get one free manga sale recently, when I was stocking up on Kaiju No. 8. But if I had more volumes available for this video, I would have happily binged them. If the icky few pages involving the aliens don't turn you away from this series, the rest of the book is sure to kill you with laughter. I now understand the quiet but rapidly building hype around the anime announcement. Super Women in Love, Honey Trap, and Rapid Rabbit, number of volumes read 1, total time 38 minutes. Continuing on the comedy train, we have Super Women in Love. This story follows an alien humanoid villain called Honey Trap as she falls in love with her nemesis, the hero known as Rapid Rabbit. Honey gets fired from her evil alien organization without even getting severance pay. To make things worse, they send assassins after her, but Honey escapes and then wakes up in Rapid Rabbit's house. The comedy in this series comes from Honey's delusional fantasies about Rabbit, and the dysfunctional villain organization trying to take over the world with a weeb and a lab nerd as their only remaining members. The story is pretty light, which makes it a quick read, but it was really enjoyable. Apple Black, number of volumes read 3, total time 4 hours and 55 minutes. Oh my god, do we have to talk about Apple Black? As you might have noticed, that is an insane amount of time. Honestly, I don't think people are going to believe that that is the real number for only 3 volumes. So Apple Black follows Sano, the Chosen One, called the Trinity. Sano is plagued by visions of his dying father and is being transferred to a special school to train his impulse, or magic, to one day save the world. We get to see Sano's first real experience with the outside world, where he thinks being attracted to girls is some sort of hex placed on his stomach, and how he is surprisingly ignored by most of the students. Sano aggravates a few different characters and makes some friends, sure, but overall, he feels very out of place. Apple Black is very focused on providing you with the lore of the world and all of its characters, and I do mean all. Significant portions of the series are spent more or less speaking at the reader to make sure that they know the whole series Bible before meeting anyone who's important to it. There's a large invasion very, very early on, so it feels like we're being rushed to learn everything about everyone and set up and pay off everything immediately. There are some pages where when I flipped to it, I needed to pause the timer and talk myself into not canceling this video or picking up a different book. It is a very heavy read that just wasn't suited to this specific challenge. As well as it being a series I ended this on, my brain just refused to adjust to reading left to right. Sure, I read some comics from time to time, but Apple Black feels like a manga, so my brain just won't cooperate with me, though obviously that's an issue with me, not the series. Apple Black has a very rich and interesting world, and a lot of characters to love. Under normal circumstances, this is the kind of story I would want to get lost in and learn every detail of. I just think there's too much information too quickly, and it was sometimes delivered in a way I just didn't gel with. However, it has a lot of good qualities. I really love plenty of these characters and the art style. Even if it feels like in the big fight all of my favorites got sidelined, so the characters I don't like ended up with all the screen time, the fights offer some really cool action panels, although sometimes I did get lost in between them. Oftentimes I feel like I'll read a book, especially a shonen, and after getting used to the main cast, I really want to zoom out and see more of the world and the kinds of people who inhabit it. Apple Black is kind of immediately zoomed out, and sets up like 5 different groups of people all at once. And I think maybe if this was over 5 to maybe 7 volumes, it would work really well. But over only 3, it forces these long sections of characters talking at the reader. And we can't really play it off as silly Sano needs to learn about the world, because he's also aware of all of these. So we end up just kind of telling characters things they already know so that they can tell us. I'm sure outside of these binge reading sessions, I would respond a lot better to this. But I have some mixed feelings on this one. I think it mostly hits really, really well, but the few things that bother me really bother me. Results: number of volumes read 17, total time 16 hours and 7 minutes. So, at the end of this, how do I feel? Awful? Tired? Don't do this. I broke this up basically into 2 massive sessions with a gap in between them, and after both sessions I was very burnt out. But how did I feel about each series, and what was my main takeaway? I think the clear winner of this challenge was DanDaDan. It forced me to read a book I had laying around, and its strong first volume hooked me right away. I loved it. Aside from a few gross panels, this was a 10 out of 10, but all factored in, it's still a 9.5. Coming in very similarly was Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest, Kaiju No. 8, and Super Women in Love. Each series was immediately fun to jump into, but came off a little light in content. Probably all around 8s. My ratings are always very top heavy, like if I like something at the end, it never usually gets below a 7, and I don't put that much thought into the ranking, I'd rather focus on pros and cons. Quite a bit behind them comes Soul Rescue and Witch's Printing Office, where Witch's Printing Office felt slow and a bit hollow at the end. The similarly slow Soul Rescue ended up rescuing itself with its interesting story of dreams and change that inspired this whole separate video. Probably a 6 for both, but an 8.5 for the one shot at the end of Soul Rescue. Lastly, the 2 series that left opposite impressions on me, Apple Black and Jack Flash, where I feel that Jack Flash was too focused on a limited number of characters and a plot that left me disappointed enough to skip Volume 3 and move on. Apple Black overwhelms me with too many characters and details for a world I truly think I will fall in love with down the road. It was just somewhat forceful of a first impression. Considering I didn't keep going with Jack Flash, it probably gets a 6? 5 if it wasn't for the great art style. Apple Black gets a much nicer score of 7.5 or 8. I'd love to read more, just maybe in smaller doses. What ended up surprising me is that I remembered so few of the specifics of each series, and I remembered maybe one name per book, none of the specific lingo each series uses, but I strongly remember how each book made me feel. Soul Rescue left me with hope, Witch's Printing Office with boredom, Jack Flash with disappointment, Apple Black with potential, Fairy Tail with fond memories of the past, Superwomen with a light happy laughter, Kaiju with awe of its world and fights, and DanDaDan with chaotic excitement for what's next. If I had to do this again, I would never do a sampling of various different series. If I just read like 10 volumes of Kaiju or Fairy Tail, it wouldn't feel so heavy. But reading a volume of DanDaDan, getting excited for what's next, but then jumping into a different universe instead gives a sense of whiplash that spoils everything except whatever ended up being number 1. If you quizzed me on any of these series, I would flunk it, because oh lord, did I forget the name of every single person, place, and thing. If any of these sounded interesting, I promise I kept major spoilers out of these, so go check them out, especially Apple Black, because Saturday AM is doing a lot of exciting things, and I don't want my thoughts of there being too much cool stuff stuffed into these books to be a turnoff, because it really shouldn't be. So thank you for watching, and I hope someday soon I'll see you reading Maidral.